I've been recently blowing up this e-commerce brand right here to over $3.7 million in revenue in just the last 90 days alone. And in this video, I want to break it all down for you in a case study format, give you exactly what this brand is about, how we were able to get to this level of skill, and most important of all, how you can replicate these results for your own e-commerce brand. But before we get into any of these nitty-gritty details, let's take a step back and go over to the Google Ads dashboard to look at some numbers. So right now I'm looking at the last 90 days up to yesterday with this e-commerce brand, and it's a specific car parts and accessories e-commerce brand. So the niche is, it's in the automotive niche, but right now in the last 90 days, we've been able to generate roughly $3.7 million in revenue at an 11.53x ROI. So the return on ad spend has been an extremely high number, and we've been able to achieve this at a great level of scale. Now, the reality is this brand has been running for quite some time now. What you want to know about this brand is, first of all, it is an e-commerce brand, as I mentioned, in the car parts and accessories niche, and it's been running ads for a very long time. In fact, the Google Ads account actually started back in 2007. So if we go right here and check the all campaigns, we can see that there was some activity back in 2007, really not much, but there was some momentum that was starting to basically get gained during 2010 when this brand was running on Google Ads. However, as you can see, it was a bare minimum. Things were running, but they were nowhere close to how they're running at this point of time. Now, this brand really started to take up and really started to take Google Ads seriously in 2018, 2019. That's when the peak season for this brand really came in. And that's when also this brand started to go all in with Google Ads. Now, what you want to understand with this brand is that the average order value, it's on the mid-ticket to the high-ticket range, roughly $305. And the break even, at least right now, is roughly an 8.9x. So the 10x, 11x ROAS, which we're able to scale this brand at, it's extremely profitable, and they're able to scale because of that. Now, this brand on an average a month does roughly $1.6 million in revenue, and it's to be expected because it's been running for such a long time. Now, if we look at the last 30 days, the revenue you will see has actually started to drop. It's not as much as it used to be. In fact, it's about 1.06 million, not 1.6, and that is because Q4 surprisingly is a slower time frame for this brand compared to the summer season. The summertime is when it does roughly $2 million and more, and during the slow season it does roughly about $1 million to 1.1 million, which is why the average is 1.6, and that's just the nature of this brand. At the moment, at least, this brand has roughly an allocation of 62% of the total revenue coming from Google Ads alone. So this month, they still ended up doing as a whole 1.6 million back in September, basically. But 1.06 came from Google Ads, which equates to roughly 62%. The rest does come from Meta Ads. And because there are so many expenses for this brand, they have a very big factory. They manufacture all these parts and accessories. They have so much stock. The target ROAS at any given time is a 10x and beyond. But here's what you want to understand. It was not always like this for this brand. The level of scale, the level of profitability that you see in the recent years, it was not always like this. There was a time when this brand was struggling pretty heavily, and it was basically in the 2021 to the early 2023 era. We were not working with this brand during that time. We came in the middle of 2023. But although these numbers seem very big and just crazy, the reality is these numbers were too good to be true. When I did the first audit for this brand, what I came to realize is that not only was there one major conversion tracking tag firing, recording all these purchases, but there were two more actually recording that data, sending back data to the Google Ads account. So in total, there were 3 conversion tracking events firing, all feeding data to this number. So you see this 1.6 million is actually extremely inflated. It's about 2x, 3x more than what the real values were. So what they naturally were doing was they were focused more on the Meta Ad side of things. Their Meta Ads kind of budget allocation was more than 65% in the start before we began work here. Problem with Meta Ads within this niche is it's not the most profitable placement, the most profitable ad platform, but what essentially was happening on the Google Ads side of things back then was there was too much simplicity going on. If we go back here and if we look at the time period when basically we were not working with this account, so from essentially 2022 all the way up to the middle of 2023, we can see that during this time, actually, this brand had not much going on for it. So February 28, 2023, we started in March and April. But essentially, if we look right here, we can see in total, they only had 5 different campaigns running. They were scaling up to 10 million according to Google. Of course, this was not accurate, but even then they were scaling up to 7 figures with Google with only 5 campaigns. And these campaigns had fairly decent budgets, and because their average order value is on the higher end, this was easier to accomplish. But the thing is, having 5 campaigns at this level of scale, first of all, it puts too much focus and too much dependency on just these select few campaigns. And second, there's not really much room to be trying different things out just with 5 campaigns alone. And these campaign strategies were beginning to die out. It was becoming stale. The brand was plateauing. As you see right here, although the cost was going up, the revenue was actually going down, and they had no idea how to fix this. What we had to do was we had to come in and make things a bit more complex. Now, if we look all the way from basically May of 2023 all the way to now September of 24, what we can see is that we ended up testing a lot more things during that time, taking this account from just 5 campaigns to having spent money across 25 different campaigns. This was the first kind of strategy that we had to implement. It was horizontal scale. So we added more campaigns here, and we added just more strategies, which I'll get to very shortly. But before we cover that, let's actually take a step back and understand what the approach with those 5 campaigns or 6 campaigns was before and why it wasn't working. They had a little bit of segregation going on based around their collection. So this brand, because it's in the automotive parts and accessories niche, it has various different collections. They were just segregating these 4 PMAX campaigns out based on the main selling collection based on previous data. In addition, they had a standard shopping campaign running on smart bidding, but there was no real strategy behind it. It was just running at a very high target ROAS, which was the account average of 10x. But in addition to that, it had all of the same products as what these PMAXs had. So in reality, there was no segregation or no strategy behind the standard shopping, and all it was doing was spending all of that budget that was set for it to spend at the end of the day. Along with that, they had a dynamic search campaign running, which was great because they were allocating some budgets towards search. But the thing is, it was running for all product pages, and because this is in the automotive niche, they have millions and millions of SKUs. This is often not the right approach to take when it comes to dynamic search campaigns, especially if you have a lot of SKUs. Now, what this led to, why this was bad, was because number one, it led to a lot of overlap. The PMAX and the standard shopping was first of all overlapping, but even the PMAXs themselves, because a lot of these products were similar to each other, they had similar keywords, and internally, these PMAXs were actually competing against each other because of these keywords. They're trying to rank for them with shopping and other placements, and it was leading to inefficiency. What this leads to with PMAXs is it leads to irrelevant placements. If you have a bunch of assets running within your PMAX campaign is not just going after shopping only, it's also going to start going after maybe blog pages, it's going to start going after mobile apps, video games, and all these other random placements where if it's not getting much success from shopping, it's going to start pushing more and more budgets for these irrelevant placements, which is exactly what was happening here. And this was leading to a lack of scale, because although the numbers seemed high, although the ROAS seemed crazy, what was happening was it had plateaued during the early portion of 2023, and it needed a change dramatically. So that's kind of where we came in with our newer approach. And as I showed earlier, we took horizontal scaling as the first scaling strategy here, of course, after optimizing the product feed, after making sure all the product titles, images were opposite of competitors. By the end of this horizontal scale, we had a total of 15 different performance max campaigns in the start at least, which were segregated based on real data. And there were 3 segregation strategies we used here. First was the performing products versus underperforming product segregation approach. Second, the product prices. So some of the campaigns right now which we are running, they're running based on the pricing of the product. Some of these products that are below $100, for example, they get their own separate approach. 100 to 500 have their own, 500 plus have their own, etc. And you can see what the difference is in terms of the ROAS. So each one of these campaigns has a different kind of level of profitability. Some which are under $500, like this one, is running more profitably than this is, which is over $500 product. So this was kind of the first segregation approach we took. Second is segregation product prices, which was the second segregation strategy which we took. Third one was the search volume. Now, most e-commerce brands don't even know this exists, but what you want to do is you want to segregate some products out based on the search volume. We have some campaigns in here where the products, all of them are essentially under search products. So any kind of product with less than maybe 5,000 monthly searches or 10,000 or whatever the number is based on your total search volume for your other products, you want to put them in their own separate campaigns. And what you will notice is oftentimes this campaign will not spend a lot of money, but it will be extremely profitable. And if you had just put these products inside your main testing campaigns, what would have happened is these products would have never been tested because they have so little search volume. Google is gonna prefer those products with more search volume and more demand. That's how the algorithm works. That's how it allocates your budget. We didn't just stop on PMAX campaigns here. We also launched some standard shopping campaigns, especially the catch-all approach. Now, the catch-all approach is something where basically you run that standard shopping campaign on a target ROAS or a target CPA kind of approach, bidding strategy, where that setting, that target ROAS is extremely high. Now, in this situation, what we did is we set the target ROAS to be 1400%, which is a 14x ROAS. And as you can see, it's not performing at the level we want, but it's running at a 12x ROAS, and it's not going to spend as much money compared to the other campaigns because, first of all, this is only going to start spending once the PMAXs stop spending money, and second, because the target ROAS is so high, it's going to get the best possible traffic, and it's going to be lower amounts of traffic because it's the best. So that's kind of our approach. We had 2 in the start to kind of A/B test. We narrowed it down to 1. And finally, we also had a dynamic search campaign running. We changed the original approach to category based only. So going after each category or collection within the brand is what we decided to take as the approach here. And the end result was nothing short of crazy. If we go back to the ads account and we see within the last year what kind of happened versus what was happening before. So if we go in 2023, which is essentially when we began work, and we compare it to basically the previous year. So looking at 1st of January all the way to the end of December of 2023, we can get a clearer idea of how things were compared to the previous year. So compared to the previous year, there was a 20% increase in ad spend. Revenue says 18% down. However, keep in mind, we changed this from 3 conversion tracking goes to only 1. So in reality, it was actually up 11% year over year. And the ROAS, again, because we fixed up conversion tracking, it gave a more realistic number now. Although it says 32% down, it was also actually increased overall. It was running at a 10.77x for a majority of the year. And then during the summer seasons, it really went up, which is why the total ROAS ended up at a 15.63x. And so far within this year alone, so if we go to 2024, look at 2024 all the way until September, which is basically 09/30th, we can see essentially what was happening with the brand during this time. So if we compare it again to the previous year or that time period, we can see conversion value is up again year over year. The ROAS is a little bit down, it's at a 10.89x, but that's due to a lot of varying factors, as well as the fact that we scaled so much that there were started to be inventory issues and they don't have enough stock. So now we have to kind of lower the scale and whatnot. But ad spend also went up by 49% and the scale has been introduced. So right now it says 13 million. By the end of this year, we'll be around the same range as what we have been before in the previous years, but it's more consistency. And the most important thing of all is that we were now able to diversify from them just focusing on a few products, because according to the conversion tracking being off, the other products never really got a chance to even be tested. So this ended up adding a lot of stability to the brand overall, which is exactly what they needed. Now, again, if you run a brand doing $1 million a year and you need some help scaling your Google ads to the very next level, we can take care of everything Google ads related for you. So click the link in the description below and let's potentially work together and scale your brand to the very next level. But regardless, check out this video right here on the top 5 PMAX strategies, which we use here to scale this brand to the next level.